Joining us here now, atop of hour number 3, as we get set for a Western Conference Finals tonight between the Lakers and the Nuggets. The Celtics and the Heat go at it tomorrow night. So much happening off the court in the NBA as well to help us make heads or tails of it all. Senior NBA writer from The Athletic, Sam Amick, back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Sam?
Rich, doing great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Let's jump right into what happened in Philadelphia. Why did Doc Rivers get bounced? Sam?
Well, I mean, you got, to me, 2 layers to it. You've got, the incredibly disappointing finish of the season. It felt for the first time in a little while in the Joel Embiid era that they might have what it took to take this thing a little deeper. And so Game 6, heartache, you're up late. You lose a game like that. That can get any coach fired when you lose Game 7 the way that they did. But I think the more nuanced, story here is, all the questions that they now face in the summertime. James Harden specifically with his free agency. I definitely thought going into this summer that unless they won a title, the idea of James, coming back and wanting to play for Doc was unlikely. So I think that is playing a part. And then you also have to remember, you go back to when Daryl Morey was hired by Philly in late October of 2020. He got hired 25 days after Doc got hired, and it was always a little strange, the timing of it, and they made it work during their time together, and it seemed to be a good relationship. But, Daryl never hired his own coach, and now Daryl doesn't want to lose James Harden.
So you think this is a keep Harden maneuver, and thus what? Does that inform us about the next coach, do you think?
It could. I don't have total clarity on what direction they're going to go, but the threat of James going to Houston is very real in free agency. And, the idea that you then, you have to take every attempt to give him what he wants to keep him, I think that's part of the calculus. Now, the natural counter to that is, wait a minute, you have the reigning MVP on your team. Like, this is not the old Houston Rockets days where you set everything up the way James wants it. And that's where if I'm handicapping it, I probably don't think that James is back. I don't know if it'll be Houston. I think it very possibly could be, but we'll see what happens.
Sam Amick of The Athletic here on the Rich Eisen Show. Obviously, also what could lead to everything that happened in Philadelphia is the fact that there's a ton of coaching candidates that are out there, and they might already be talking to other teams. So if you're thinking of doing it, you might as well do it quickly, as Philadelphia did. Monty Williams is part of this mix. Why is Monty Williams even out there? Let me just give you a simple question. Why did the Suns do what they did with Monty Williams, Sam?
I mean, Rich, to me, it's crazy. I don't remember a time when we saw new owners just coming in flexing like they have in recent NBA history, and I think that's the biggest reason that Monty is on the market now. Matt Ishbia buys the Suns. Said all the right things in his early press conferences about trusting his people and not taking over, and that didn't last very long. He's taken over, and he came in, and I'm not sure what James Jones' future in that front office holds, but with Monty, 2 terrible endings to the last 2 playoffs, and an owner who clearly just wants to put his stamp on this group. I'm surprised because I thought the relationship between Monty and Kevin Durant would hold more weight. That was a major reason that Kevin wanted to come to Phoenix. But we saw this with the Timberwolves when they got bought by a new ownership group. They went out and traded for Rudy Gobert because you want to do something splashy. Milwaukee has a change in part of their ownership, and they are suddenly firing Mike Budenholzer. There's a lot of this going around right now.
Yeah, I mean, my gosh, the 3 teams with the most wins over the last 3 years, Bucks and Sixers and Suns, just all fired their coaches. Frank Vogel's in the mix for Philadelphia job, or as he's mentioned to be. We all know he won the bubble year as the head coach of the Lakers. Nick Nurse won with the Raptors. He's free now. He might be in this mix for all these jobs. Why do you think we're seeing all this, Sam?
It's funny because we debate the value of the regular season, partly because of load management, partly because of ring culture. And I don't know. I think that's part of it, is the idea that all of a sudden owners specifically are, they are looking at the playoffs and they're looking at the ultimate goal as the end-all be-all. And in a weird sort of way, it might be a testament to the talent level within the league, where you have so many programs where they feel so confident about the level of talent of their players that they think they should be raising that trophy at the end of the year. They seem to forget that it's, 1 out of 30 every single time. And when they fall short, the heads roll. But it is crazy to see this many high-caliber coaches on the market. It's kind of a field day for any team with a vacancy right now.
Well, I just don't. It's so rare, Sam Amick of The Athletic here. Normally, when a coach gets fired, they're in the lottery, right? I mean, like, that's the way it would go. Or any other sport. Coach gets fired, it's because they need a quarterback. Manager gets fired in baseball, it's because the team has just been stinking. That usually is the case. But in the NBA, the job just opened today has the reigning MVP. One opened last week has another MVP. And one opened in between them has Kevin Durant, who's got, all the accolades and MVPs in the finals galore. And Booker. I mean, these are some serious gigs here. Which do you think is going to wind up being the most desirable in your estimation?
Well, to finish real briefly,
sure.
Rich, your son's point, you get fired as Monty Williams. You didn't have your Hall of Fame point guard. You didn't have your impactful big man. He had all kinds of reasons to feel fine about losing that series, and he's still on the outs. As far as the vacancies and most attractive, I'm tempted to say inevitably going to come with questions about Giannis's future in Milwaukee. He's got a decent runway there, a couple years left on his deal, but extension possibilities nearing. But as far as attaching yourself to a guy who is as great as they come, I think that's a pretty good recruiting chip. The Suns situation is tricky because Devin Booker is elite. He's become one of those guys. And Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant, but he's still not a young man, and he's still post-Achilles Kevin Durant. And you have to figure out what to do with Chris Paul, whose contract is only half guaranteed for next season. And more to the, kind of holistically, they don't have a lot of avenues to add depth this summer. So that job to me would be a little bit worrisome in that regard. And Philly is going to be, to me, I talked to somebody earlier today about the Mike D'Antoni possibility. And I just think it's going to have Daryl Morey's fingerprints all over it. And I don't know if it's going to be as open as they make it appear, and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, a lot of good jobs with a ton of expectations that come with them.
Sam Amick, the senior NBA writer from The Athletic. Couple more minutes left with him. Crystal ball, what happens in Golden State now? What happens there?
I'm a little surprised, Rich. I didn't think we'd have this much clarity this quickly in the offseason about the way they were going to take things. I mean, they're clearly going to run it back with their core, and they have gone from trying to operate on two timelines and have the old and the young meet at the perfect pitch point to make it work, and that plan fell apart. James Wiseman gets traded. Jordan Poole is struggling. Jonathan Kuminga can't get on the floor. Some good minutes from Moses Moody, but by and large, they've swung and missed on a lot of their young players. And then they look at the old heads, Steph and Clay and Draymond, and they feel pretty good about the state of their respective games. I don't know. To me, their ceiling, even if they do this, their ceiling is definitely lower than it was before. I think they can still win a lot of games. I think they need to do something in the summer if they want to truly be title contenders again. But Draymond has got a player option this summer, and both sides are making it seem somewhat inevitable that they find a middle ground on a multi-year deal. Klay Thompson can have an extension this summer. He's got 1 year left on his deal. He's not going to get the max that he certainly wants, probably not even close to it, but I think something probably gets done there. And the dynasty core is going to keep seeing if they can do it.
And then crystal ball for me, what happens with Ja Morant, and the Grizzlies have said that he's suspended at the moment, but I imagine the league is going to step in and potentially soon. They might not want to stomp on their NBA finals, but something's got to get done. I would think sooner rather than later, but maybe I'm wrong. I'll give you the floor, Sam.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the timing. I do think they might have a window here where they would be excused for taking their time, partly for business purposes, like you said, keep the focus on the playoffs, also because there's just no pressing issue about regular season games just yet. I'd be pretty stunned if they didn't come down pretty hard on Ja on this one. And I feel like this is one of those where hopefully this parallel lands. But, when Draymond Green, during that game against the Kings in the first round, stomped on Sabonis' chest and then had a lot of antics with the crowd, he did that with Adam Silver in the audience in Sacramento. And I always felt like that was risky business because from a human standpoint, you got to be careful to not embarrass the commissioner. And Adam, I don't know if that's what happened, but that was my read of it potentially. Now, if you look at Ja, this feels like, if you're Adam Silver, you kind of put your neck out for Ja before. You gave him a pretty light discipline on the first Instagram Live gun video, 8 games, but it was really 2 by the time the verdict came down, pretty soft. And then less than 2 months, you're doing the same thing again. And I think making Adam in the league look really bad in the process. I wrote a column yesterday, pretty tough on Ja, pretty tough on the league, pretty tough on the Grizzlies. It's always telling to me when you write something like that and you don't get any pushback at all. And I think they know, how serious this is. And I think the decision, discipline-wise, is going to reflect that.
Well, just, I guess, to tag team on top of your analogy to the Draymond Green suspension, and obviously we're talking about apples and oranges in regards to the reasons for the suspension. But he, in the statement from the NBA, just called it up. They said the suspension was based in part of Green's history of unsportsmanlike acts. So if history is being brought into it, the recent history
right.
of him getting suspended for a similar offense in a similar way of being caught with a gun, although that one was in the public domain in Colorado with different gun laws, I imagine, that he gets suspended for that, and he mea culpas to Jalen Rose and also to, I imagine, the league. And then this happens now. That has to factor into the league's thinking about what their punishment might be, Sam, I would think.
100%. Absolutely, Rich. And the thing is, too, and these are, to be very fair, from a legal standpoint, these are allegations, but as you know, you're also talking about several other instances where the presence of a gun was alleged. The fight that he got into at his house with the 17-year-old basketball player who was there to play a pickup game, and he's been sued in that situation. You have the shoe store incident where his mother had a hard time with somebody at the store, and John, some other people allegedly showed up and threatened that man. For the NBA's purposes, it's just bad business. It's headline after headline with a guy who was, the number one up and coming kind of American-born star, making them looked at every turn. That context, to your point, is going to factor in.
Last one for you, Sam. Let's talk about the Final Four here. The conference finals that begin tonight in Denver and then tomorrow in Boston. So many great stories about their journeys to this spot. Celtics with a head coaching change that shocked everybody. The Heat being the 8th seed and then technically being lucky to even be that. The Lakers are clearly a story unto themselves for many reasons. And then you've got the Nuggets being the 1 seed in the West, actually doing what they did to get there by dispatching the Suns with Durant. Which one do you think could spike a basketball, if you will? I know you don't hang banners at this point, but which one do you think can hold their chest out the most to say this was an incredible result to get to this point? Sam?
To get to this point, or to get the job done all the way?
I got to get to this point, even just like right now, that to get here.
I think it's Miami. It's close between Miami and the Lakers. The Nuggets are doing what they're supposed to do, and same thing for the Celtics. I think that the Lakers can puff their chest, but the unique part of their story, of course, is that you really revamped your team at the trade deadline, and good on you for doing it. It worked fantastically, but it's a different group. What strikes me about the Heat is it's really, you hear all the time about Heat culture, and sometimes people roll their eyes at it because it's tired and talked about so often, but they're showing again how real it is, to win the types of series and the games that they have with Tyler Hero being out, losing guys left and right. This is a Heat team that underwhelmed all regular season long. I remember I caught up with them early in the regular season. I think they were, and I actually had really enjoyable conversations with like all their people guys, Jimmy, all of them. I think Tyler too, and like Jimmy that night, because he's Jimmy and this is how he rolls, had said, and so I'm paraphrasing, but basically we're winning the effing championship, like we are. And I just walked away that night going, this guy's something else. Like it doesn't matter how bad it looks, he's always wired that way. And you can call him crazy at the moment, and now I don't think they're going to win the chip, but to get to the conference finals is remarkable. And it's all born out of the way they compete, the way they train, the way they run their whole operation. So for me, it'd probably be Miami.
And then butterflies tonight, huh? With the lottery. This is it.
Yeah.
Right?
It'll be fun, man. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we didn't see tanking that we thought we would see.
Mm-hmm.
And, and we still have all these scenarios in play where, teams that didn't sell out to get the guy might get him. It'll be fun. It's been a long time since we had a player like this on the edge of joining the league that was going to make such an impact.
Well, Sam, I've got a bag full of ping pong balls here. I don't know if you can hear it in the microphone. We're about to do our own lottery. I'll let you know the result. If you want to break that news, I'll let you know. Okay? We'll do that. Oh, there we go.
The NBA got us.
As you know.
Ghost of David Stern.
You can take it down. As you know, I was literally 10 seconds before to say goodbye. Like if I didn't make the joke with the ping pong balls, I would just say goodbye and I'd be out. As you know.
You want to text Sam
You're
right
upset.
now and
I
say
am
you're
going to text
sorry?
him.
Yeah.
I got to have closure. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.